This week's podcast is presented by GK Calls, Migration Ammunition, Gibraltar Duck Hunters Association, Gibraltar Boatyard, Turtle Box, Gator Decoys, Hunt Proof, Cooler Guard, Pattern Pros, Hodag, and last but not least, I'd like to have a huge shout out to Brian Ellithorpe for all of the support that he does behind the scenes. Now let's get into today's episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Great Lakes Outdoors podcast. Trav and I are sitting here with a special guest, we were actually able to be a part of his podcast, but it's Brian from Migration Waterfowl. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kyle. Appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on, man. We've been talking back and forth for a while now, and to finally kind of get it all squared away. And with the craziness today, I was kind of worried about it this morning about getting it all done, but I'm glad we were able to work it all.
Yeah, it sounds like you got your hands full. It's like a lot of storms moving across the country here.
It's I'd say I got my hands full out of wood, but it people might think of it differently if I said that, so I don't want to say that. So
you already said it, so it's already out there.
I'm just it is what it is. But Brian, you want to explain like just who you are, what the brand is that you're that you have, and just a little background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Brian Hallbly, like you mentioned. I'm from Southwest Pennsylvania, born and raised. I came into waterfowl hunting a little bit later in life, growing up in Pennsylvania, being a deer hunting state. That's what my dad was, a big deer hunter, a little bit of small game, and fisherman. He liked to take us camping, but didn't get into waterfowl until some friends introduced me probably about 15 years ago. And Pennsylvania is not the greatest waterfowl hunting state in the union. So kind of bounced around for the last 25 years, started freelance writing, and then got into editing magazines and publishing a magazine, and then kind of moved into the digital age. Was a co-host on a podcast for about 6 years, and then decided to start my own thing about 2 years ago. So here I am.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's one of the main things that I noticed with you, you do podcasts all the time, man. I don't know how you do it. I mean, it's hard for me and Trav to line up as many guests as you do, and it's honestly very impressive on what you do. That's kind of struggle in itself, to be honest with you. I mean, I know how hard it is, and like I said, it's a very, very impressive what you do over there.
Thank you. Yeah. Doing a weekly show can be pretty challenging, like you said.
I mean, you're getting guests all over the country as well. I mean, are you just doing waterfowl guests? I mean, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, but mainly just waterfowl.
Yeah, I try to keep it waterfowl related. I was on, like I said, I was a co-host on a deer habitat podcast for about 6 years. So kind of like to focus on the waterfowl on this side of it.
That's a tough thing too, even just waterfowl nonstop all year. Just to kind of stay up with times, I guess, and to keep people, I don't know, intrigued, I guess you want to say, with the waterfowl podcast throughout the whole year. It's tough. So like I said, I am jealous of what you do over there, because I don't know if me and Trav could even do that.
Yeah, consistency is a big thing. I think people like to, if they like your show, because not everybody does, but if people follow it, they like to see, okay, every Thursday, I know I can jump on here and he's got a new episode.
For sure. I mean, and that's the hard part too. I mean, it's like you said, it's if people like your show, but at the end of the day, for me, and I feel like for Trav too, I'm not trying to speak for Trav, but I learn more than I feel like some of the listeners even do on every podcast that we do. So I get a lot of enjoyment just meeting new people and reaching out and just meeting people all over the country. It's an awesome thing to do, and grateful for being able to do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty selfish, especially when I started out. That's one of the main reasons I started the podcast, was to just try to level up, because I had raised 2 daughters with my wife, and a lot of my waterfowl hunting friends kind of phased out with starting their own families, and my waterfowl hunting had gotten down to, a handful of hunts a year. And I'm like, man, I'm getting rusty. I think this would be a great way to learn from some people that know what they're doing and help myself level up, get back to where I used to be.
It's when we first started this podcast, it was one of like the goals of mine, to talk to people all over the country, just kind of learn how they hunted, and just learn, like, so I'm in the trades wise, for example. So I took it as, in the trades, I take bits and pieces as an apprentice from every journeyman that I'm underneath. So if I could take every like bits and pieces from all the hunters all over the country and kind of make them into my own, I don't know why that wouldn't work. So just being able to learn different techniques and calling and just hides or decoy placement, whatever it may be, it's crazy how different everybody is. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's all for the same purpose per se.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the great things about it. You can pick up all those different tips, and if you get stuck, or if you remember when you're out there, like, oh, I heard this, maybe I should try that. It's definitely great to have that knowledge to reach back on.
For sure. Now you started deer hunting. You said that this is kind of up Trav's alley. This is where I kind of shut up and let Trav talk. Um, Deer habitat. I mean, was it just the podcast, or were you doing that for work wise, or kind of explain that a little bit if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I've owned a couple of farms in Ohio over the years. I'm only about 20 minutes from the Ohio line. So I bought 25 acres back in must have been about 2005, and I managed that for deer and turkeys, and I think I had that for about 4 years, and then I flipped that and bought a 40-acre piece in Northeast Ohio up by a big lake called Pymatuning Lake. And yeah, I just always been into playing farmer and trying to grow big deer, and always enjoyed that challenge of it.
Was that the goal of those farms? Was just to get them to the prime level and then flipping them to move on to the next one to kind of keep that the challenge going.
Yeah, for me, I had this dream that I wanted to own 100 acres someday, and I couldn't afford that starting out. So I've started with the 25 acres, and I was reading a lot and watching guys in the hunting industry how they would start that way too. And then with the way that land prices were going up, and this was 20 years ago. This was before it's gotten really wild since COVID. And that's what kind of phased me out. I got to the point where I was able to flip to a 40, and then these land prices just got out of sight. And I'm like, man, I got 2 girls to put through college. I don't think I'm ever going to see this 100 acres.
Especially now with like the solar companies and just all these other people that are wanting to build in a subdivision. So you can't even compete with them. It's they're paying 3 times the amount of what like asking price. It's such a tough thing.
And the interest rates too. I mean,
Right.
forget it. You're gonna pay hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the purchase price by the time you're done.
I just had a conversation with the farmer the other day, and it's sad to kind of even talk about it. Where I am curious to see how long it is until like the average Joe can go out and knock on doors and get permission on private pieces anymore, whether it's waterfowl, turkey, whitetail, whatever it may be, just because of the fact that there's so many farmers getting out of it now just because they can't make a living off of it, unfortunately. And other reasons too, don't get me wrong, but um I'm curious because the solar companies are coming in and data centers or whatever, and that farmer might say no now, but down the line they're still going to ask a price that nobody else can turn down. The son that doesn't want to farm anymore, they're going to take it, or I don't know. It's just kind of a sad thing to kind of even think about, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask a question on the deer habitat. So I don't forget too far ahead of it. But so as someone where like average Joe, like you said, with the pricing and stuff, it might not be reasonable for someone to go out and buy a 100-acre piece of property. So on the smaller side, I know the 25 and 40 might still be big for some people, but with someone that has a 10-acre piece of property, there's common challenges with holding deer and transfer areas and stuff like that.
Sure.
What was one of the challenges, or how did you solve that challenge of having a smaller piece of property and still being able to hold big deer and harvest big deer off those properties?
Pressure. You got to manage your pressure like nothing else. If you give a big buck everything they want on 10 acres and you're not chasing him out of there, he'll stick around.
Okay.
If he feels safe there. But that's the biggest thing I see over the years. You guys want, they'll get 5 or 10 acres, but they're in there every day or 3 times a week, or it's like, hunt the edges until the right times, and then you could probably get away with a few more sits during the rut. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is someone that grew up on a bigger chunk of property is not hunting every day because
Mhm.
it's not right with the wind or, the weather,
Sure.
or just the time of year. It's one of the biggest challenges I think any hunter with a small piece of property has is just being patient when it's
Yeah,
deer season.
absolutely.
I think that was one of the reasons why my dad shot that deer last year. I mean, it was a little, maybe 5 acre little woodlot in the middle of cut corn. Like it was just a little woodlot that we seen a video of a buck making a scrape the night before, and Trav's like, he's probably in there still. You better get out there tomorrow. And my dad went over there and ended up shooting him the following night. And like you said, we barely hunted it. We hunted the edges and obviously right time, right spot, right place. But yeah, pressure I feel like is a overlooked thing in the waterfowl community, and even obviously deer community. They've been talking about it for forever, but waterfowl a lot more than people think as well.
For sure. Yeah, it's almost like with those mature bucks, if you can get them to grow up in a spot, I don't care how small it is, if they get to be 4 or 5 and nothing bad's ever happened to them in that area, you almost can't run them out of there. I've seen that so often. It's actually almost cheating when you get them to the point where their home range shrinks so much when they start to get 5, 6, 7 years old because they'd have no reason to leave. They're like, nothing's ever happened to me here. And then you make your move and it's curtains for them.
I
Well,
just seen
hopefully in a couple years we'll get some 5 and 6-year-olds because currently we don't have that in Michigan. And I mean, in Kyle's dad's case, shooting a 170 I think it was a 5-year-old, right, or 6-year-old.
six and a half.
Yeah, that's not very common in Michigan.
Yeah, it's tough. Pennsylvania is the same way. It's hard to get them to grow that old. But like I was telling you before we recorded, on my friend's farm in Ohio, having 400 acres and all the neighbors all have large pieces and they're all on the same page. So we're talking thousands of acres where you've got bucks getting 4, 5, 6 years old on that block and never, I mean, there might be a coyote or something chasing them around, but they're not afraid of anything. They just know that they're safe there. And then you
Yeah,
make
and
your move and they don't know what hit them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key too, right? You said there is having the buy-in from your neighbors too, right? Because that could, like, you could have the perfect game plan, but if your neighbor isn't on the same page as you with your management style or having something similar to it, like that's going to screw up your entire process.
Absolutely, for sure.
Now, question about that though, because do you feel like deer that are like, so I have property closer like towards the city wise. I don't want to say city, but just like a downtown area of a small
Sure.
town per se. And I almost feel like those deer are moving a lot of like the tree lines and stuff, more than people think. And I feel like they're more used to seeing people or being around people. And do you think pressure plays a big factor in those kind of deer as well, compared to like deer that maybe never are used to seeing anybody in general? These deer, they might see 10, 15 people a day. Is
Yeah.
pressure for those deer?
Yeah, I hunt a lot in the suburbs here and outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and man, it's almost like they have a sixth sense. There's deer that come through my backyard here that I can almost walk up to, but if you walk in the woods holding a bow or something, I don't know if you're giving off like a predator thing. I don't know how they can tell the difference, but it sure seems like they know when they're being hunted and when they're not.
I had the same thing in turkey season. They come up to you, damn near sniff your boot or something, and it's like you were just blowing at me from 500 yards away not that long
Yeah.
ago, and all of a sudden you're just walking right up next to me. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I'm not a biologist, so I don't know what take that for what it's worth, but I've seen it happen so many times.
I mean, my grandparents' piece, like they're used to like we drive golf carts and quads and whatever all throughout the property. So during deer season, my uncle just drives his golf cart right up to the blind.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't scare the deer, it doesn't do anything, like because they're used to it, right? He's not changing anything, and he shoots 130, 140-inch whitetails every year. So, like,
Well, that's like Ohio. They still allow baiting, and there's guys that's part of their. And I'm not judging anybody. It's a legal thing, and they do it legally. But they use that as part of their system. They'll take a quad out to restock the bait pile, and those deer get used to that quad coming and going. And then when it comes time to hunt, there'll be 2 people on the quad, and only one leaves, but the deer don't know that.
it's like bait and bears, in
Right.
Michigan and stuff like
Right.
that, right? Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. Well, funny story. We were hunting a golf course one year, and we were just talking about like the predators and just they had a sixth sense, and we were goose hunting geese on this golf course, and we couldn't walk out there to save our lives. Like usually you're on the golf course, you can walk right damn near up to the geese. Couldn't do it this time of year, but if you drove a golf cart next to the geese, it wasn't a big deal to them at all. Like we could take our guns out in the golf cart and drive out right next to them, and they're fine. But if we walked anywhere near them, and they like it was almost like they seen us having the gun in our hands, they knew. It seemed like it was just it's I don't know, like you were saying, it's like that sixth sense that all those animals have. It's frustrating, is what it is.
Sure. Well, did you ever think about like when you're buck hunting and you'll have does come in and you know in your mind you're like, I'm not shooting a doe tonight, and there's like no chance of you picking your bow up because you want to wait for a buck, and those does are like so comfortable and they'll just come right up to the tree, and it's like that's why I think there's something to that, because if you were like, all right, I'm going to kill one of these, it's almost like you're giving some kind of vibe off that they pick up on.
I thought in my head, to be honest with you, before that Trav was like a narc and was kind of giving the deer around my neck of the woods like intel, because like I thought that too, and someone's got to be a snitch somewhere somehow. Someone's got to be.
Right.
And who else better to blame than Trav at that point? What kind of got you started with like the Migration Waterfowl? I know you said that you hosted a podcast prior to this, and you kind of wanted to do your own thing, but what kind of made you think of the name? Like what kind of was the thought process behind all of it?
Yeah, so I've always been a storyteller, going back to the early 2000s when I was freelance writing. Just always enjoyed sharing that part. And then kind of the digital age came along with the early days of the internet and the forums. And I kind of shared my stories about my property ownership and deer habitat work. And then that kind of moved into I was a editor for a magazine, and then I started my own magazine. And the podcasting was just the next natural step to continue to be able to tell stories, and in conjunction with my YouTube channel. And I kind of got a little bit burned out on the deer stuff, to be honest with you, because I bought my first property in 2005 and then flipped that into the bigger 40 piece. And it was like every weekend was like go, 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 whether it was spring planting, fall planting, hunting. I built a cabin there and just got completely consumed with deer hunting. And over the years, in the last 15 years since I started waterfowl hunting, that all kind of started to take a back seat because I was a property owner. It was an hour and a half away. I wasn't fishing as much. I wasn't waterfowl hunting as much. And I'm like, man, I really miss that stuff. So I kind of started to dial the deer stuff back. And I'm like, I really want to jump in both feet with the waterfowl stuff again. So coming from being a co-host of the deer habitat, it's called the Habitat Podcast. It's based out of Michigan as well, in fact.
Right.
It just felt like it was time for me to take a break from all of that and switch gears. And Migration Waterfowl, it's just a kind of a name that came to me. I don't know. I didn't have any like epiphany about it or anything. I think I tried a couple of different things and was like, what's this look like? What's this sound like? And then from a Google standpoint, everybody's always Googling, the migration, waterfowl migration waterfowl. So that might be like a cheat code to get to show up on the Google search.
I'm surprised no one had it before that, to be honest with you, because I mean it's one of the best names out there. Obviously, like you said, it's a very highly requested like look up or information piece for a lot of people in the industry. Was it a difficult process for the transition? I mean, because I was kind of the same way with deer hunting when I first started. I was just strictly deer hunting, got into waterfowl, and it was just like a whole kind of change of pace for me. Where I didn't have to worry about scent anymore. I could just kind of show up in the marsh without doing like the work and sweat my butt off in the off season. And as much as it's gratifying to see everything come together for deer hunting, it was just kind of nice to be sharing the camaraderie with friends and family, and even like a dog out in the blind, and it was nice in that aspect. But was it a hard transition for you, or was it pretty easy to go just waterfowl?
It was pretty easy. I mean, I was doing both for a long time. Like I said, mostly concentrating on the deer, of course.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, just the pressure and I'm sure you've been there. You put so much pressure on yourself, and deer hunting's obviously more singular. You have to be quiet, like you mentioned. You got to worry about your scent. It's kind of a solo thing. I mean, you do get once in a while maybe jump in a blind with a buddy or hang your stands close together or something. But most of the time, it's a lonely game, and there's so much pressure. And you might have one mature buck through that whole season, and if you blow that, if you make a bad shot or the deer turns around and doesn't give you a shot, it doesn't happen in waterfowl hunting. If you screw up, there's more birds coming, and it doesn't take long for those birds to show up. So there's a lot of different, I wouldn't say, better, because they both have their challenges and their excitement and their allure. But yeah, it's not difficult for me to dive headfirst into the waterfowl.
What do you see in the, I don't want to say groups, but like the waterfowl community and the whitetail community? Do you see a resemblance at all, or is it, waterfowl, they say, is a lot of cutthroat, but it seems like, it's when you go to these shows and stuff, everybody's open. There's a lot of, when you get in the right crowd, I should say, everybody is there to help you out. But obviously, there's people that are on the other side of the spectrum of that as well. Is it kind of similar in both standpoints? I mean, you've kind of done it both, is the only reason why I'm asking.
Yeah. Yeah. So humans are humans, right? I mean, you're always going to have a small percentage of people that are always going to find something negative to say about everything. And unfortunately, whether it's a social media algorithm or the mainstream media, negativity for some reason is always selling better than positive messages. But the people that I run the circles with, and the shows that I go to, and the places that I hunt all around the country, I'd have to say most people are good, no matter whether it's deer hunting, waterfowl hunting. It's just a small percentage, and I really don't run into those people too often because maybe they're just outside of my circles.
That's nothing wrong with that. Keep them outside of the circles as far as I. That's it's a shame though too with people that are starting up, podcasts or apparel companies or just social media groups in general. How much negativity is brought on them just to try to, just on somebody trying to make a difference in the community. It's a shame, honestly, and I think that's a big part of things. I don't want to say going downhill, but maybe numbers going downhill, and people are getting out of it so quickly just because of the negativity. They don't want to deal with it, and maybe they want to just
Yeah.
stick to the thing just because it's by themselves and they're going to worry about anybody else. Who knows? But the social media and having platforms like we do isn't as easy as a lot of people think.
No.
It's apparel as a whole, a whole different ball game from what I even thought it would be, and I'm sure it's the same way with you. And it's I don't know, it's crazy looking on this side compared to the other side, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just difficult, very difficult to start something up and stay positive over a long period of time.
Yeah, well, our society has really gotten strange with this. I don't understand how it's happened, but it started like in politics, right? Everybody wants to put you in a box. You're not allowed to have multiple opinions now. They want you have to pick a side. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not picking a side. It's kind of like the hunting industry, if you will, on social media. Like, people are like, you got to do this and you got to do that, and it's like it's way more nuanced than that. Like, I don't know. It's funny you talk about the negative people, and they want to put you in a box. They're like, this guy, they don't even know you. They've never met you a day in your life, but they're like, all these podcasters, all these YouTubers, they're trying to be influencers and be important and get free hunting gear. And it's like, I'm not trying to do any of that stuff.
It's a
I'm
part
just
of this
trying to
thing
tell a
too.
story.
Right. And like we talked about in the beginning, it's like it's one of those things where I just like to talk to people and just see their viewpoints on some of the things.
Right,
Even if I
right.
don't agree with it, I just like to see what they got to say about some of the things. It's just like
sure.
we got a big thing in Michigan with the baiting. They want to bring baiting back, and we just switched over to the 1 buck rule for us in the Lower Peninsula anyway. And the social media platforms, especially Facebook, on those, I mean, it's a war zone. It really is. I mean, you say one bad thing and take cover because you're under fire at that point.
Very toxic.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's why, like, seeing all the stuff that you do in the podcast and the amount of time that you put into it, it's nice to see. I don't know, just other people sticking with it. 'Cause I mean, it's a small group, and I don't know. It's nice to see that because I understand all the hard work, the dedication, and time away from the family or whatever it may be it takes to be able to do it. So like I said, I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's room for more people. I hear people mention it. They're like, "Oh, this person's starting a podcast. That's." I'm like, "That's great. It's great to have a variety because not everybody's going to like your stuff.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's tons of people out there because I'm that way when I consume podcasts. There's some that I like and there's some that I don't. So I think it's great. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great to get the word out there, and everybody has their own little way of looking at things and way of doing things, and you're going to connect with some people and others not so much.
I literally before I walked in, was on the phone call with a brand that I just kind of found out about. He wanted to talk a little bit and kind of just shoot some ideas back and forth, whatever. And it was the same thing that you said. I told him the biggest thing as you grow, it's not going to happen overnight, and so don't expect it. And if it does, buy a lottery ticket because that's a miracle. But
Yeah,
don't change who you are and what you believe in. I mean,
that's right.
like I said, you can listen to whatever anybody else says, but just don't change on who you are or what you do as a on the show, on the platform itself. Just keep it natural. Don't be someone you're not, and things will go smooth for you.
Yeah, and this stuff is recorded and put out on the internet and everywhere else, podcast platforms, YouTube. It's not going away. So you don't want to have to try to keep track of, if you're not being yourself and like, well, how did I act or what did I say? That's great advice. Just be yourself, tell the truth and have fun and you'll be all right.
The hardest thing to do is lie about a lie, because I mean,
Yeah,
you better know what you said during that lie, because if you don't, you're screwed. That
that's for
is
sure.
that's one of the hardest things.
Let's take a quick breather from the action. Let's talk promos. Grab 25% off HuntProof with code GREATHP25. Save 20% off Cooler Guard using code GLO. You can take 15% off your order from Hodag using code Great Lakes. And take 10% off Pattern Pros using code Great Lakes 10. Now back to the show.
Going back to like the you're saying people are always talk about like the apparel that we get, which is not true by any means, but um you've gained a lot of growth, I would say, even from the last time that we've talked, from my perspective anyway.
Sure.
Has there been anything different that you've done, or any, like, I don't know, any secrets, I guess, you want to tell or say, or any advice for new people that have or thought of creating a podcast or social media page or whatever you may have?
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to look at your goals, right? You got to figure out what's the reason that you want to do this. I hear some younger guys, and being 51 years old, I can barely remember being 15 or 18 and wanting to be a superstar in whatever you were doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. If somebody says I want to be the next Joe Rogan or the next Steven Ranella, that's great, but the reality is that's probably not going to happen. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It can happen, but you have to get into it for the right reason. If you're getting into it for money or relationships with hunting companies or to be famous, you're probably not going to do very well. You have to want to do it for the right reasons. And like I said, I've been a storyteller my whole life. I like people. I love talking about hunting. That's what my motivation is. And it's just kind of grown around that. Now, there's a business side of it, if that's your goal. Some people are just like, hey, I just want to have a podcast and talk to people. I don't care about making it a business. I have relationships with companies that are business relationships. So I have partners that we help each other grow. I love working with companies that will share my stuff and I'll share their stuff. And it costs money to make content. We all know that. A lot of podcasters might just stay in their little home area and hunt, and that's great. They can be an expert for their local people. I like to travel around the country. I got to have mine set up a little more like a business. So I've got some money coming in with these partnerships so I could pay for gas and, pay for Airbnbs and hotels when I go travel to hunt. So it just all depends on what your goals are. But the sky's the limit. Don't let anybody discourage you. Whatever your dreams are, I guess that would be the best way to put it, is just try it. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work, and then you just keep trying or try something else.
That is true. That is true. That is one of the hardest things. I mean, to be completely blunt about the whole thing, but making it, whether it's business or a friendship relationship, be like through the podcast or whatever it is, it's hard to, I don't want to say pick and choose, but hard to, as like you said, at some point you got to make something off of it. We put a lot of time into it, and this is my opinion. We put a lot of time and effort into this. To not get anything to show for it is hard, and I feel like anybody that has a company, yeah, you have a goal to make it a full-time job, and if you don't have like that goal, even if it's under your breath, I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, that you're kind of lying to yourself, because everybody wants to be that at some point in time. But I have a hard time with just the friendship or the business side of it all, kind of picking and choosing, not picking and choosing, that's a bad word for it, but just I don't know, deciphering between the two, I guess, or don't want to lose friendships over it. If that makes any sense to you, it's
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know.
I think you can have both. I think you can
Oh,
have both for sure. And getting back to the negative side of things, you'll hear people say, "Well, this guy only uses this equipment because he's paid by the company to use it, or he gets free stuff." I hear that one a lot too.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but if I drive across the country to hunt in Kansas and I'm 1,000 miles from home and standing in a prairie marsh in the middle of nowhere, I don't want just some junk free equipment that I don't care about or have a relationship with the people that made it and know that it's good. Like, I don't know where these people come from with these comments. Like, before I work with anybody, I'm obviously going to test out their gear. Most of the companies I've been using before I even started doing this, which helped, like Rig 'em Right. I've been using them since day one's waterfowl hunting. But yeah, but a lot of those people have become some of my best friends. Some of the marketing guys that I work with from different companies, and even some of the small businesses that I work with. So I think you can do both, and it's just a matter of finding the right people that value what you're doing. I can remember George Parker from Bluebird Waterfowl called me after like episode 2 or 3, and I had spent a lot of time on my intro, and I still use the same intro today. Spent a lot of time on that, spent a little bit of money to get it recorded, and it sounded very professional. And that was like that hooked him in, and he liked my storytelling, and he's been with me since day one. And that's the kind of stuff that you should look for. And when you're reaching out to these companies or companies reach out to you, I certainly have parameters, which I'll say to, let's say Rig 'em Right, for example. I'll say, these are what I'm going to do for you for this partnership, A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, I'll do G through Z and not ask for any more money or any more product or whatever. You always want to give somebody else the better end of the deal. Not saying you should short yourself, but don't be one of those people that just has your hand out all the time and saying, "What can you do for me?" Show them what you can do for them. And most of these companies all know each other.
Oh,
There's a lot of relationships I have that have been word of mouth. I've gotten phone calls and like, "Hey, I like what you've been doing for Rig 'em Right. What would you think about working with us for this?" I mean, it's all about, put yourself out there, be positive, be a hard worker, and, don't be afraid to stick to what you think you're worth. Don't compromise. There's a lot of guys out there like, well, I don't know if this is worth that. Know your worth, know your value. You don't have to be cocky about it. Be humble, be a good person, but stick to your guns.
that's like our relationship with Migra. We shot them for the longest time, and had those guys in for a hunt, and got to meet a lot of cool people through Migra. And like you said, the industry is very small, a lot smaller than people think. Even
Oh yeah.
brands you would think that would be competing against each other are best friends. It's pretty crazy how similar the owners are, or whatever it may be. But to like the experience with Myra, just for our example, I guess it is more of like a friendship, family bond almost. And for the people that are saying we're just doing it for free stuff or free money, whatever it is, I'm only going to use, like you said, the products that I feel comfortable with using. I'm not going to use
Right.
a product that I know is going to fail, and then still promote it, because then like, and even the people that will promote stuff but not even use that stuff, it's like, well, why are you even doing that at that point? I mean, that's nonsense to me. Like, what is
Yeah.
the purpose of that? Like we got a group local that we support. It's Gibraltar Duck Hunters Association. It's just a local city group, and they do a lot for the kids and donate to the schools, and they put on a youth hunt, and it's something that we stand for. And it's like one of those things where, why wouldn't we support something along those lines? It's just that kind of stuff. You kind of find your lane, and find your people, and just kind of, it all falls into place. It's kind of crazy how it all just happens. Honestly, it seems like it's overnight when you look back on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah, some of it comes fast and some of it comes slow. So you got to kind of roll with the punches and just be consistent. I mean, that's the number one thing, because people's attention span is pretty short today. And if, getting back to a lot of people talking about starting their own podcasts, it's like they'll come up to you and say, "What can I do? Can you give me some good advice?" Just be consistent is probably at the top with everything else, because anybody can go and record, 5, 10, maybe even 20 episodes, but you do 20, or you do 5 times that, 5 times 20, you do 100 episodes. Can you do 150? You're talking weekly. You're getting in the years now. So
Right.
that's and that's what if you're thinking about expanding into getting partners and things down the road, they're also looking at that. It's not just your audience. Companies value what you're building, and if you build an audience and you build consistency, that's who they want to work with. They don't want to work with the guy that's putting out 3 podcasts a year because they don't know what he's going to do next year.
Right. And it's one of those things where everybody's taught at an early age. It's like, what are you going to do when you think nobody's looking? Like, somebody's always looking, even if you think that there's nobody looking. Like, if you're making a complete fool out of yourself and you're talking about all this, legal stuff on the podcast, and just, shooting the shit with your friends, that's cool and all, but just make sure that you realize what you're doing to yourself. And if that's, the route you want to go to improve in the industry per se, like you said,
Yeah.
it's going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just be aware of all that stuff.
Yeah, a real world example of that is one of my partners reached out to me. There was a post made on a Facebook group, and this guy just completely went after one of my partners and all their partners that work with them, and they were not happy about it. And I would never mention, what group it was and who it was that reached out to me, but because I would never want that person to get the satisfaction of thinking but that person and those people that were chiming in along that, like, I hope they don't ever want to work with the 20, 30 different brands that this guy's friends with, because they screwed themselves. Like you said, you gotta, you got to watch what you say and watch how you act. And I don't know. I guess if you want to get likes and you want to look like you're bashing somebody to be cool or whatever, more power to you. But I've never said anything bad about anybody else's podcast, anybody's products. My mom raised me, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. Now, if we're watching some young guys online on social media doing things that are hurting waterfowl hunting,
Right.
just trying to think of some things off, like
Just shooting over
people,
dogs.
you'll see videos of people walking around with a bird that's still alive and they're dancing with it or something weird. Like, you got to call stuff like that out. Obviously, that's not a time to stay silent. But just because you don't like somebody's podcast or somebody's product or how they're doing something doesn't mean that you have to, like, it doesn't give you the right to go after somebody and try to embarrass them or try to put them down to make yourself look better. It's just, I've never understood that.
I guess shooting over a dog was a bad example, because everybody's raised differently in the hunting world, and down south dogs
Sure.
are too compared to, for me personally, it's like a companion. I would rather have a nice house dog per se than just like a field dog. So I don't know. I shouldn't have said that, but it's
No, but I know what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, just kind of, I don't know, showing the newer generation the right and wrong ways of doing it, and it's one of those things too where I feel like a lot of people think that even if your name is being brought up in a bad sense, they're still bringing your name up, and I think the younger generation might, not all of them, but some of them might think that's a good thing. It's obviously not. Just different, like just the wrong mindset, the wrong way of looking into it all, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yep, for
tough.
sure. I mean, there's nothing that I can think of if I was to go out and try to say something bad about your podcast. That's not going to help me get anywhere. That's going to make me look like an idiot.
Right.
Or if if
Well,
you want to go after a brand and say, I don't like the way this brand uses partners and people on social media, like, what do you care? Like, what are you gaining by calling that out? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I thought of this in I'm bringing them back up, but like the Migra when we talk about the shells and stuff, and I get people to reach out. I don't know. I don't even know how many times a year and talk about how they've had duds and this whatever. And me personally, I think I've had I don't know maybe two because I haven't cleaned my gun and it hasn't gone off. But that's me personally. But
Yeah.
you ask these people, well, did you reach out to the company and talk to them at all or explain what happened or whatever? Well, no, I didn't talk to. Well, then how, like, if they don't know, if companies don't know and you're just bashing them for this one time, every company's got a flaw somewhere.
Right.
They
Right.
that response from you, like everybody to make better products. And I think that's just a funny thing too that people do. They just bash companies and it's like, well, are you trying to make a difference at all, or are you just on here to just throw negativity around? Because I mean, it's not
Yeah.
doing anybody good.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's an issue. Yeah, but it's something that can be solved very simply. If you're that passionate about it that you're going to jump online and bash them, pick up the phone or send them an email, like you said.
Right. You talked about, you're doing a podcast a week. And we try to, and man, it's tough. I know it's tough. And I can't imagine how tough it is to do waterfowl every week. I would feel to an extent I would run out of stuff, me personally, to talk about, I guess. Have you
Sure.
thought about doing like other, like turkey or water or whitetail, or just kind of going back into the whitetail at all? Have you put any thought into that?
No, I forget what I'm at here now, 110 episodes or something. And I don't feel like, I think there's ways that you can cover different topics without sounding like you're repeating yourself because every season, let's face it, every waterfowl season has its own challenges and new horizons and
Every hunt.
different hunts. Yes, every hunt has its own nuances. I mean, I don't think it would ever, I think the hardcore guys are always looking for some type of content on it year round, no matter what it is. Now, of course, you're going to lose some people. And I see that in my analytics from like March, April, May are normally bad, not terrible,
Right.
but you'll see a significant drop in downloads and stuff. But other than that, I mean, I still have my hardcore regular audience that still comes and listens, even through those times where everybody's kind of like trying to take a break from waterfowl hunting. But to answer your question, no, I'm going to stick with the waterfowl for a while. And there's a ton of places around the country that I haven't seen yet and haven't hunted. And good Lord willing, I'm getting closer to retirement and I'll have more time to keep telling new stories.
That's awesome, man. Hopefully, some new free stuff, quote unquote, from all the companies. uh, what is you talked about it before the podcast a little bit, like some products coming out that you have. Kind of just want to touch on that a little bit. Maybe not giving too much information out, but just kind of giving a little I don't know, teaser per se, or saying everything. Up to you.
Yeah. So I always had trouble finding a place to hang my wet waders after a hunt every time I come home because my garage is just packed full of so much stuff. And I either hang them on like a door on the storage cabinet or the mirror on the truck or whatever just to get them off the ground. And I said, man, there's got to be a better way. So I did a search for like wader hangers and there's not much out there. There's a couple of specialty companies that have some really high end stuff that's beautiful and great. I think Banded makes one. It's like $80 or something, but I'm like, yeah, I don't need to spend $80 to hang waders up.
Right.
And a lot of my friends have used like pegboards and things over the years, but pegboard's thin and it breaks. And so I came up with a product called the Gear Roost. It's like a pegboard style, but it's injection molded polymer. It's a lot thicker. I've tried breaking this. I don't know if you have video version of this on wherever, but if somebody's watching, they could see this. But I've got all kind of accessories for it. I've got heavy duty hooks. I've got baskets. I've got garment hooks. I've got some new stuff getting manufactured now, some shelves and some cups for holding calls and things. And the best part is it's modular. So you can buy as many of these panels or as little as you need, even if it's just a closet or in your goose trailer. Got some drop in the basket there. These are the heavy duty hooks here. These are
That's
also injection molded polymer. I've tried to break these and then got some smaller hooks, but it's totally customizable, which is what I love about it. And you could put it anywhere. And, these start at $24.99. So I'm trying to keep them really cheap for everybody. It comes with a bunch of hooks in the starter kit. And then we have kits and a la carte accessories depending on how far you want to go with it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Super exciting. I mean, it's such an exciting time to when you're gonna. I mean, we haven't, but I'm assuming that when you're gonna drop a product like that for the industry, I mean, it's a game changer for people's pockets and just the way that they go about their day to day business in the waterfowl industry. I mean, that's exciting with how many things that you could do with that as well. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely not just for waterfowl hunters. I mean, I'm going to be doing a whole marketing campaign for, archery season. You can hang your bows and all your archery gear, fishing gear. I've already done a fishing angler pack. You could even do, anything you really got to store in your garage. Sporting equipment, it can come in handy for a lot of stuff.
That's awesome. That's I mean even like in the like blinds wise. I mean if you had a permanent like we have a couple permanent blinds to hang something like that up to just store some things in the permanent blind. I mean that something like that would be awesome. It's lightweight. I mean it's not like you're I don't know running into it. It's not a big bulky thing where like you don't have to have it big and bulky obviously depending on what you have in it. But that's
Yeah.
awesome that you'd be able to customize it too.
Yeah, I like that. You go out in the blind and you're sweating getting in there and then your jacket ends up on the ground because you don't need it yet. Then you go to pick it up and it's soaking wet. So I like that. I'll have to throw that in the mix.
It's that happens all the time to me honestly. Like I'll throw even like my blind bag, if you think about it, people throw their blind bag down. I'll throw it down in a muddy spot so I can put the butt of my gun on the blind bag. Well, next thing you know, you're throwing your blind bag in the back of your truck, and well, it's muddy as can be to be able to get up out of the mud, or even have a gun loop on your gun to hang that up. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's awesome. Super exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's been fun. It's been well received, and I'm looking forward to hitting some of the expos this year and getting it out there.
That's cool. What I don't think I can't remember the exact time that we talked last.
I looked
Was
it
it
up. It was March of 2025.
was it Holy crap!
Yeah,
That doesn't even seem that long ago to be I mean, it's obviously long ago, but I didn't think it was
right.
that long ago. This previous waterfowl season, was there anything, like, super exciting or, I mean, that stuck out compared to other seasons or anything that, as a business perspective that, new and exciting for you this year?
Yeah, I went to Saskatchewan and hunted for the first
Uh,
time. That was, everything that it lived up to the hype.
that's
Uh, I'll
awesome.
I'll put it that way. It was, they call it the duck factory for a reason, and you can shoot 8 ducks a day there, and just the number of ducks that we saw, it was a special place, and, that certainly one of the top highlights, from last season for sure.
Were you able
There was a lot of them, but that's up there.
were you able to shoot cranes at all?
No, I've never hunted cranes.
Okay, I know some places in Saskatchewan, they do crane hunts and stuff, so I didn't know if you were able to while you were over there.
I'm
That,
trying to remember. I think we probably could have shot some if I remember correctly, but no, we were all on puddle ducks.
That's I don't know. I get jealous every time I see a video of hunts over there. It looks like heaven. It looks like something out of this world with the amount of birds that you see. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's like I said, it's called the duck factory for a reason. And you mentioned anytime you see hunts over there, that's exactly right. It's like, man, I wonder if it's that good. I hope I'm not going to be disappointed. And it lives up to it for sure.
Because that's a hard thing with social media nowadays too. With how many people are out there with a I don't want to say saturated environment or saturated I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but just industry. Especially YouTube, you don't get to see a whole lot of like behind the scenes kind of thing. And yeah, you kind of like you said, you wonder if it is going to live up to the hype.
Right. Right.
I'm glad it did. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what about for like podcasts and stuff? Was there any big guests that you had on recently, or I don't know, crazy stories that you heard, or crazy stories from this past waterfowl season?
No, it was actually pretty uneventful. I mean, the season before, I almost sunk on a boat in Lake Erie. So this season was kind of minor compared to that.
That's good.
Yeah, didn't really have anything crazy. When we were coming back from Saskatchewan, right before we got to the border, there was a bunch of Canadian Fish and Game officers, and they were like waving like all the out of country vehicles that looked like they were hunters into this parking lot. You talk about profiling.
Oh,
So they went through all of our stuff, and they were super nice. Just wanted to check to make sure we had our game birds with the wing on it and being packaged properly to transport in the United States and all that good stuff. And the funny thing was like they kept saying, "Well, we're okay with that, but they might give you a hard time about this at the border going back in the United States." When we come back into the States, they didn't care. They were like, "Okay, how many birds you shoot? Check this, check that," and we were good to go. It was like a pretty minor process, which I thought was going to be a bigger deal. And even going into Canada, taking shotguns and things, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm taking a gun and ammunition from the United States into Canada. That was pretty straightforward as well. So if there's anybody out there thinking about that stuff and worried about it, if you have the opportunity to do it, it's not as difficult as you think it might be.
now that is one of the craziest things. So I mean, you kind of, I think, know where we are. We're just, northeast corner of Michigan over here, and I've had the opportunity to hunt in Ontario a few times, and it is kind of crazy that the both sides don't really see eye to eye on the waterfowl thing. Like
Yeah.
when we were over there, I don't know if it's still the same way, but we had to leave the breast on, one wing on, so to identify it, we weren't able to breast them out. Just both
Right.
breast. And the gun situation, and some of them were like, "Why is there a wing on these birds? Like that's insane to me." Like it was a weird experience, and it was kind of one of those things. Like it depended on who you got at the border.
For sure.
That
For
it's
sure.
weird how they're not on the same page. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's like
Yeah.
an avian bird thing, isn't it? Avian bird flu kind of thing, like why they do that or no?
Say that again?
Is that an avian bird flu kind of thing where like why they're trying to identify what do you know the purpose? I mean, I know like the daily limits and possession limits and stuff like that, but when we were over there, the avian bird flu was like really rampant per se, and you were hearing it a
Sure.
lot. So they were seemed like it was more strict on like towards that kind of standpoint than limits, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. As far as I know, just the transporting the game, whether it's across state lines or across the country lines, it's just for identification with the wing on there.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's if there's anything else they can track with that for as far as avian bird flu. I'm not sure.
That's kind of like gone. I don't want to say gone away, but like even last year, I didn't really even hear about that much compared to previous years. To be honest with you, over here anyway.
Yeah, I think there were some pockets of snow geese this past season. I heard from different parts of the country that had some bad spots, but yeah, nothing local to me or anything major that I heard.
We had one situation where Michigan. I don't know if it was a DNR. I don't want to say it was a DNR if it wasn't them, but they were talking about like gassing geese. I don't know if you heard about that at all over here. About because they transport geese from like the cities or subdivision ponds to places where they're not going to be a nuisance per se.
Yeah,
And kind of after that whole scenario went down, I didn't really see or hear too much of the bird flu. I don't know. I don't know. It was there obviously there's not a whole lot of answers to it. But just thinking about it, it's just weird. I didn't hear too much about it last year.
yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. I heard a couple things, but nothing that stands out.
That was a whole thing with us over here that they didn't want to transport geese; they wanted to gas them. But like the kind of the news is they didn't want to tell the whole story, which they want to eliminate those geese because if they transport them and they had avian bird flu, they didn't want to put avian bird flu to a flock that didn't have it at all. But they didn't want to say that aspect of it all. They just wanted to make it sound like it was complete negative, and it's I don't know. You know how
Sure.
all that goes.
Yeah.
But where can people find you at?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just Migration Waterfowl. You put that in anywhere. We're in all the socials: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at Migration Waterfowl. Also have a website, migrationwaterfowl.com, if you want to check out the gear roost. I've got some cool merchandise over there as well. If you need some shirts or hats, this USA 250 with the flag Migration Waterfowl is on there. Get you set up for our big 250th anniversary for Independence Day. And anything else you want to find out about me is either on the website or any of my socials.
That's awesome. When you come over for the festival, you'll have to come in. Maybe we'll do another podcast, and
Yeah, definitely.
you
That'll be
definitely pick up
fun.
one of those shirts, though, too. That's for sure. So
I'll definitely bring some.
that's awesome.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun following you guys and seeing what you got going on. You're not too terribly far from me from
No.
some of my other drives out there, so I'm looking forward to getting over there.
Yeah, we should even during the season, maybe we figure out a day or a time when we can have you over for a hunt or two. And I don't know. You said we're not that far from each other, but
Yeah.
like I said before, I mean, I with everything that you do and the dedication, and everything, it's awesome to see, and just keep up the good work, man. It's not going unnoticed by any means.
Appreciate that.
So I appreciate everybody tuning in on this week's podcast, and we'll catch everybody on the next one.